And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Finden, who writes, "It looks like Disney is moving forward with arbitration, which, if I'm correct, basically means that Disney is going to settle with Scarlett Johansson. Am I correct in assuming this? Thanks, and have a great time at Cinemacon." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, the gift of the ScarJo Disney lawsuit that just keeps on giving, everybody. There is a new development in the Scarlett Johansson Disney lawsuit. Now, just to get you guys quickly caught up, Scarlett Johansson has sued Disney. For those of you who have not heard about this, Scarlett Johansson has sued Disney for the fact that they made Black Widow a day-and-date release on Disney Plus with the theaters, claiming that since a lot of her salary was tied to how much it would make at the box office, they undermined how much money the movie would make at the box office and thus have ripped her off of millions and millions and millions of dollars. It has gotten very nasty since then, but that's kind of where we are right now. So where are we sitting right now with this lawsuit? Well, here's the newest twist, okay? Here's the newest twist. So Disney is now claiming that in their contract, there is a provision where the parties have agreed that if for whatever reason they end up in a lawsuit against each other, either one of them can request an arbitration. And that's pretty standard. Nothing unusual about that. That is pretty standard. But it raises the question for some people, because I had a bunch of people writing to me this, what ultimately does this mean? And even the question that just got sent in, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding. Disney requesting an arbitrator for their situation here does not necessarily mean they're looking to settle, but it probably does. This comes to us from the folks over at Entertainment Weekly who write the following. Disney has filed a motion to settle a lawsuit brought by Black Widow star Scarlett Johansson behind closed doors. The motion was filed to Los Angeles Superior Court on Friday afternoon by Disney attorney Daniel Petrocelli. In documents obtained by USA Today, Petrocelli argued that the contract between Disney and Periwinkle Entertainment Incorporated, the company representing Scarlett Johansson, included an agreement to settle any disputes through binding arbitration in New York City. So there we go. Binding arbitration in New York City. So what does ultimately this mean? Well, it means this. Disney broke the agreement with Scarlett Johansson and ripped her off. Scarlett Johansson is like, I'm not going to sit there and just take that just because you're Disney. I want my money. And so she's taking them and suing them in court. So Disney is obviously contesting, and we're going to see how this now goes and unfolds. It's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. By the way, our friends Casey Mack sends in a super chat badge. Thank you, Casey, as does Max Bolton and Jeffrey Solomon with a big thank you super chat badge. Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate that. So that's where we're kind of at. Now, I've had a couple of people write to me and asking me yesterday, what does ultimately this mean that they're looking for arbitration? And for that, let's take a second and jump into the Campea classroom, shall we? What does this mean? Because this is going to be important here, okay? This is important. The first thing we got to understand is that the vast majority of lawsuits, lawsuits, never go to trial, okay? The vast majority of lawsuits do not go to trial. That's important to understand, okay? Because listen, trials are expensive. They take up, it costs the government money. It costs taxpayers money because judges are paid and court time is paid and court usage is expensive and all that kind of stuff. Going to court is expensive for the people involved in the lawsuit. It's expensive for the system. It's expensive for the government. It's expensive for taxpayers. It can be long and drawn out. And it's just, that is why the vast majority, not all of them, but the vast majority of lawsuits never actually end up going to trial. They usually end up getting settled, okay? They usually end up getting settled. Now, I am giving you just a very brief Coles notes here, okay? It's way more complicated than the way I'm about to lay it out, but I'm just giving you the basic idea, okay? The basic idea. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do a settlement, okay? Prior thing. One party can offer a settlement that the other party can accept or reject, okay? So let's say me and Robert get into a legal dispute. He ate my pizza when I went to the bathroom. I came back and he ate my pizza, and I'm suing him for $50 million, okay? Damn, that's a pretty good pizza. Damn right. It's got mayo on it. I'm just kidding. Even I don't put mayo up on pizzas, okay? Everybody relax. Everybody just relax, okay? Even I don't put mayo on pizza. But some of you heathens put pineapple on it. Anyway. So me and Rob decide, okay, it's going to be really expensive for us to go to trial. So Rob says to me, okay, look, how about I give you $5 million and we just call it a day? Let's say I just give you $5 million and we call it a day. That is a settlement offer, okay? That's a legal process called a settlement offer. He makes an offer. Now, I can accept that offer and then we're done. I accept the offer. He now has to pay me $5 million. The lawsuit is done. Just that simple. And a lot of lawsuits end that way. By the way, just as a side note here, this is interesting. Follow me. This is very interesting. If you reject a settlement offer, right? If you reject a settlement offer and it goes to trial and you lose or get less in the trial than the settlement offer would have given you, you may owe extra costs. What I mean by that is this. This is true. Okay. This is actually this is a legal mechanism put in there to encourage people to settle their disputes outside of court. Okay. Let's say, go back to the case of the stolen pizza when Rob stole my pizza. Okay. I'm suing Rob for $50 million. Rob sends me a settlement offer that says, hey, how about I just give you $5 million? How would I just give you $5 million? And then we call this whole thing off. We save ourselves the legal expenses. We save ourselves all this time and hassle, and we just settle this. I can accept the offer, but if I reject his offer of $5 million and we end up going to court and I lose, or let's say I even win, but the judge only awards me $4 million out of the $50 million I was suing for, right? In whichever case, if I go to court with him, I rejected his offer of $5 million. I go to court with him. If I lose or win less than what he was offering, guess what happens? I have to pay Rob's legal expenses. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it. It's different. But if you reject an offer to settle and then it goes to trial and it ends up worse for you than you would have gotten if you just accepted the offer, you will now actually have to pay extra court expenses, your opposition's lawyer fees. You're going to be saddled with another big bill. So that is put into place so it encourages people to settle outside of court. So you don't go, I'll just take my chances in court to see if I can get more money. Well, then that might end up costing you. And it could cost you a lot, because if you reject an offer and you don't win more than that in court, you're getting punished with extra fees that you're going to have to pay for the other guy. And that can be very, very expensive. So yeah, there is an encouragement to think. But aside from just straight up settlements, okay, there are two other things to keep in mind how these court cases, like one between Scarlett Johansson and Disney, can be settled. And it's important to understand the difference in this situation and why this arbitration demand from Disney is important. Okay, one thing is mediation. Mediation. Okay. Mediation, and again, let's talk about me and Rob and the stolen pizza, is Rob and I decide, okay, we'd like to settle this outside of court, but we fundamentally disagree here. So let's go out and get an unbiased third party. So I don't know, let's say we bring in Aaron. We go get Aaron Cummings. And we say, Aaron, you're going to be our mediator. So Aaron will listen to Rob and I both come up, explain why he feels he shouldn't give me anything, why I feel he should give me $50 million. Aaron will go and talk to Robert. She'll come and talk to me. And the job of the mediator is to get the two sides to come together to a compromise. Okay. Now, again, I'm way oversimplifying this. I know I am, but just think. So the mediator, their job is to try to get the two parties to come to a compromise of some way, shape, or form. Okay? That's what mediation is. And a lot of court cases, a lot of lawsuits are settled in mediation. And by the way, the mediator's final word, the mediator can't give a judgment. The mediator is simply there to try to make a recommendation, try to get the two sides to come to a compromise, and then make a recommendation, right? But the mediator doesn't actually have any real power. Again, I'm oversimplifying it, I know, but that's important to understand. Because that's what moves on to the second thing here, where we're at with Scarlett Johansson and Disney. Arbitration. Arbitration is different from mediation, in the sense that the arbitrator, it isn't there. The arbitrator, like the mediator, is a third party, unbiased person, right? The two sides agree to a third party that comes in and will be the arbitrator. The arbitrator's job is not to help you come to a compromise. The arbitrator's job is to be kind of more like a judge. They hear your argument, then they hear your argument, and then they make a decision. And in a lot of cases, like this one with Disney, Disney is asking for legally binding decision, which means that whatever the arbitrator says, Scarlett Johansson and Disney have already pre-agreed. Whatever the arbitrator says becomes legally binding, and we will agree to whatever it is the arbitrator says. So it bypasses the courts, less expense, less hassle, it gets settled more quickly, all that kind of stuff. Either way, the job of both mediation and of arbitration is to settle out of court. That's all. The goal of all this is to make the parties settle this without it actually getting to court. But here's the key thing about this arbitration. Unlike a court case, which is public record, right? If something goes into a civil court, it's public record. Everything is going to be aired out for the whole public to see. Arbitration, again, I'm oversimplifying it. This isn't always true, but generally speaking, arbitration is done privately. It's done privately. It's not subject to public knowledge. It's all held behind closed doors. Unlike in a public courtroom, this is all done behind closed doors and it's secret. Now, that being the case, Scarlett Johansson's lawyers are not like letting this go unanswered for. Scarlett Johansson's lawyers are saying this: after initially responding to this litigation with misogynistic attacks against Scarlett Johansson, Disney is now predictably trying to hide its misconduct in a confidential arbitration. Berlinski said in a statement to Variety, "Why is Disney so afraid of litigating this case in public? Because it knows that Marvel's promises to give Black Widow a typical theatrical release, like its other films, had everything to do with guaranteeing that Disney would cannibalize box office receipts in order to boost Disney Plus subscriptions. Yet, that is exactly what happened, and we look forward to presenting the overwhelming evidence that proves it." So, here's the thing. Disney knows that in the court of public opinion, Disney's getting slaughtered in this. They just look bad. Disney just looks terrible every step of the way. The fact that they pulled this fast one on Scarlett Johansson in the first place, then that idiotic public response they gave saying, oh, they publicly revealed her salary and then they did all this kind of stuff, like really scummy moves. And they just realize everybody is against them in this. Almost everybody. So what do? And they have every right to do this. They have every right to do this. What they did was they have now filed to the court to ask the court to order Scarlett Johansson and them to go to an arbitrator outside of court to keep everything secret. So what's going to happen here? I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's the same thing that I told you guys was going to happen when this lawsuit first started. It will never go to trial. This will never go to trial. This is going to get settled out of court, whether it's by a direct settlement offer. And by the way, even if it goes to an arbitrator, you can still submit a settlement offer. But it's either by a settlement offer, moderator, or mediator, I should say, or an arbitrator. This is going to get settled out of court. And what's going to happen now is that Disney is going to have to pay Scarlett Johansson. It probably won't be the full $50 million Scarlett Johansson's asking for, but it's going to be kept very quiet. We're never going to know what amount Disney ultimately had to settle for. We're never going to know all the other details, all the confidential stuff that was in the agreement, because Disney now wants this held behind closed doors. And it's their right. That is a provision in the contract they have. So it is their right to ask for it. But it's not a surprise that they are asking for it, because they no longer want this to be out in the public. They know they don't have a legal leg to stand on. They know they're getting slaughtered in the court of public opinion. They now want this to be secret. They're going to pay off Scarlett Johansson, and we're never going to know what the amount is. Which is exactly how I thought this was going to go. It's exactly how I thought this was going to go. So anyway, guys, that's what this whole thing, that is why this thing that Disney is now asking the court for arbitration is significant. Because it means maybe good news. We're never going to hear about this again, probably. So we'll see how this goes. Anyway, question is for you guys. What do you think about this whole thing going on now with Disney asking for an arbitrator, with the Scarlett Johansson lawsuit? Honestly, to me, everything is going exactly as how I thought it would go. But question is, what do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.